So T.S. Eliot famously said that we are distracted by distractions for distraction. Does that sound familiar to anyone? And the spiritual and theological question it asks is, how in the world did we lose the ark in the first place? What were we doing when we lost the ark? Or lost our center? Or lost our way forward? Or lost our attention? Or paid attention to that which was unimportant on behalf of that which was less important, in that pattern we all know so well of being distracted by distraction for distraction as our country goes down the tubes, as our days get lost in wandering around the internet as though it knew the way home. What is a distraction? It means that you are so preoccupied that you can't pay attention to what you want to pay attention to. The antonyms are preoccupied, inattentive, vague, abstracted, absent-minded, far away, in a world of one's own, bemused, confused, bewildered, troubled, harassed, worried, anxious, miles away, not with it. And the synonym is attentive. This weekend, I have wanted to pay attention to quite a few really great things. I wanted to enjoy the purple asters up and down every road, the ones I thought were late this year, and there they were. I wanted to go to the High Line and check out the goldenrod and all the flowers that LJ read for us. And you know, I got distracted. I ended up spending a whole lot of time listening to really stupid jokes on the internet and on Twitter. Now, some of them were really funny. I mean, really funny. Funny in a kind of liberating way. And I thought, thank God we haven't lost our sense of humor yet in this country, and I am not going to repeat them, because that would involve me in breaking my oath to not do what I said I wasn't going to do. So I also wanted to kind of enjoy this hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, because I just love it. And my plan was to walk around singing all the verses on the High Line, and then going to Abigail and Dakota's wedding and having a great time and meeting their wonderful family. Welcome to you all. And that was my plan. And if in the process of attending to those obviously minor things, I lost the ark, I didn't care, because in a way, losing the ark was finding the ark, and not doing anything that important was going to be fun. But instead, several of my friends, of course, started saying, you must write something for the Huffington Post immediately, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, what would I say? What would I say? Warren, who is not here today because he just couldn't tear himself away from the Sunday morning talk shows. He just couldn't do it. You know, and he can't stop tweeting and he can't stop talking about it. And it was almost like he just figured out that Donald Trump was a sexual predator. Like, really? What was your first clue? Thank you, Ed. Or Roger Ailes. Or Clarence Thomas. Or Bill Clinton. What do we think these guys are doing? And I'm going to try to get to a touchstone here. They were being failed alphas. Have any of you read or listened to the TED Talk by Simon Sinek, How Leaders Eat Last? Hear it today. It is so good. Basically arguing that our leaders, our alphas, have put the fear of God into us by eating first, as opposed to serving the tribe and the herd. And Simek uses the metaphor of the gazelle. And he says the gazelles are scared because the alpha's taken all the food. And that leadership is helping the herd feed and making the herd feel safe and connected to each other. I think that's what we do here at Judson. We have lots of leaders, and we feel relatively safe here and relatively connected here. And that's what tribes want to do. And when you have a presidential campaign like we've been having right now, where the alpha male behaves so badly, it terrifies people. Biologically, and by the way, it should. Warren and I discussed how much money we would be giving to the campaigns in order to make sure that something horrifying didn't happen, and Warren gave away way more money than I wanted him to do on that, on behalf of that. And I said, why'd you do that? How come? We don't have that kind of money. And he said, Donna, if that man wins, all the money you have in the world doesn't matter. And this, by the way, is not a paid political announcement. This is biology and humanity and about what leadership is about. And we can't have our leaders groping us or scaring us. We need leaders who eat last and who tend to us. I don't care what their gender is or isn't. One of my favorite stories in college as an English major was a piece of criticism about Huckleberry Finn, and the story's called Hurry On Back Down to the Raft, Huck Honey. Have any of you ever read it? It's a really cool piece of literary criticism, and it basically argues that Huck and Jim in the story are kind of working out the all-American issue of how the men are going to learn to get along. So is it or is it not interesting that the excuse being made for this latest gaffe by a so-called leader is being excused as locker room talk between boys? I think that boys have a lot to work out with each other. And I think that's a touchstone for me. That's a real touchstone for me. I'm not saying that women are perfect and that we don't have things to work out, but my God, alphas, there's stuff going on between you that you have to talk about sex that you had with a woman as though she didn't exist, wasn't in the room. It didn't matter. So what kind of sexual thing are you doing with each other doing that? Or impressing each other about this foreign object. Hurry on back down to the raft again, Huck Honey. Those relationships between alpha males are distorted and distorting, and we do not have time to be distracted by them. People are being killed in the streets. The planet is burning up. The poor are being blamed for their poverty. Women who get pregnant and want to choose an abortion can't. Why? Because the alpha males are not providing leadership, and the beta females haven't figured out how to rise up within that. There is something so frightening about the distraction. That's the problem. It's somehow what is obvious to all of us we're not seeing. One of the reasons is what Andrew Sullivan said in New York Magazine. I'm sure you've seen the article in which he says, I used to be a human being. And he confesses that he's just been overwhelmed by technology, overwhelmed by it, and can't get to anything important in his life. And he says something that's really quite remarkable about how he wants the church, to fix it. Right, as soon as we get our new website up, we'll fix it. You know, I don't understand why he thinks we can do it, but if we can, good. But there is this word, the most oft-repeated word I've heard all week, is the word bandwidth. Donna, I would if I could, but I can't because I don't have the bandwidth. I would if I could, but I can't because I don't have the bandwidth. Don't tell me that. I don't have the bandwidth. Now, what is bandwidth? Temporal bandwidth is the width of your present, your now. The more you dwell in the past and future, the thicker your bandwidth, the more solid your persona. But the narrower your sense of now, the more tenuous you are. What happened to our now, which is the only time in which we can build an Ebenezer? Where did our now go? It got filled up with things we didn't do yesterday and things we're worried about tomorrow. To be less distracted is to move that stuff out. To get a touchstone or bandwidth or an Ebenezer is to be able to live in the now without the past threatening you so much or the future threatening you so much. That can happen when we help each other be safer and when we connect to each other. And for me, and I know this is a God-optional congregation, for me that means putting God, or whatever we call God, in the driver's seat of our life. Heard a ridiculous evangelical joke, and I promised to quit soon. And it was that they saw a sign at the church that said, God is in other people. A lot of us kind of think that, or at least we live that way. God is in what other people want us to do, what we want to do for other people. And so somebody in this evangelical church took our symbol, the comma, and put it in there. God is in other, comma, people. God is other people. God is other, comma, people. I thought it was corny as heck, and I just love it. Because somehow, to open and make spacious that bandwidth, there's got to be room for something outside the bandwidth, besides your relationships in the past and what relationships you might have in the future. Why are we so worried about those temporal relationships? Our alpha leaders are failing us up the wazoo, and we must stop them. We must demand leaders who eat last. But B, we think that the most important thing in the world is what's happening this way. And it could be that the most important thing is what's happening that way. How did the prophet get the freedom to build his Ebenezer? He said, oh my God, we need help. We need to get our ark back. And then God helped him there. Amen.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lafanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Amal Aleinu, V'ololenu, V'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu,